Good evening. So you've got Alison, Michelle, and myself, Kat in the background. We have a few things that we need to discuss again this evening. So, top of the bill is the big debate, petition debate on the 1st of December. And I'm going to hand over to Michelle because this is Michelle's baby. And she's going to update us on some of the things we can do about this debate.
The first thing we need is everyone contacting their MPs. We need to have MPs in the room. That is the first priority. The petition was deliberately drafted widely so that it could cover all the areas of the bill, because this bill is massive. It covers everything from social care to schools to home education to teacher conditions to deprivation of liberty accommodation for older teens. So it's a very mixed bag bill. To clause 4, the unique identifier. So it changes lots, and it changes the relationship of the parent and the state with regards to education and their children, and it makes data privacy negligible for all children, as the current threshold is everything can be shared for safeguarding reasons, which, absolutely is the right threshold of safeguarding. But this makes it negligible. You won't need parental consent or the child's consent if it may promote well-being, which is a very, very low bar, because anything could do that. And even if they mess up and share it, you can look at the bill yourself. As long as you share it under this clause 4's reasons, you won't be breaching confidence. So even if you make a mistake and it's really, really low, so you can pretty much share for anything anyway, even if it's one of those odd occasions where you're not supposed to, doesn't matter as long as it's under that clause, because they've added a get out of jail clause literally in the bill. So we need everyone talking about this, because the bill is really late on now. We've only got really the report stage now, and we need MPs speaking out passionately. We need to know that we've changed their minds on certain points, and peers need to hear that as well, because actually they're thinking about what amendments to table for the bill at the moment. So hearing really good, passionate speeches about how this bill as written will really affect different families will also help peers work out where they go with their amendments for the bill, because then there is real chance of change with the bill at this late point. The first thing we want is get your MPs there. The next bit, on the day, we're going to have a small information-based gathering outside Parliament. So that's from 1:30 till 3:30, so that people, if they are going and want to then go and watch the petition debate, can. The petition debate starts at 4:30. It's first come, first serve, like normal public gallery, and it is streamed live on Parliament TV and Parliament YouTube. But I know we're going to aim to have a bit of a watch party going on. I'll personally be in watching the debate in person, so I'll miss the watch party part. But for those of you who can't get down and actually get in the room to watch it, we're going to have a bit of a watch party so people can be sharing their thoughts, whether their MP has said what they asked them to say, which MPs may be going on a different track, and means that maybe we need to get groups of us going to visit those MPs to help them learn what home education really looks like. So everything this week is aimed towards getting MPs in the room.
Yes, and we do have a briefing from Special Needs Jungle that people can actually attach to their emails, which provides a lot of extra information and context, which will be really, really helpful to send along with your email to your MP. And it means you might not, if you don't feel like you can write everything, you can just give a brief letter and then attach this as well.
Yeah. So and it's actually a joint briefing between Special Needs Jungle and Reclaim Rights for Children. This is particularly relevant if the reason you're home educating or the reason you're concerned about changes to the bill are related to your family having someone who falls under the SEND umbrella. They've got extra bits about how exactly this bill disproportionately would affect your family.
Those of you, I just want to say thank you to those of you who have already contacted MPs. If your MPs have come back to you with a very stock response, a cut and paste response from whatever template was sent out by their party, this is now the time to respond to them and pick, because obviously they send these template letters out that basically tell you the bill back to you, even though you already know what it's got in it. They tell you everything back to you, and they can't really do that again if you send to them, respond to that. Now they can't send you the same template. They have to actually kind of answer your questions. So do try send a follow-up letter if you can. And we are getting a very good response rate from MPs at the moment, almost 52%, I believe. So that is really good. So it is working. Please keep trying. Okay, that's a big one. Then we've got our other big event coming up 17th of January. We've been nagging and saying to you, please put this in your diaries. Please plan to be there. It's a Saturday. It will be loads of fun. We need as many feet on the ground as possible for this. And this is also something that Michelle is behind and can give you more information on. And I want to add that we also have a fundraiser going along with this, because we want to make this protest the biggest and the most impactful we can. And for that, we need money. Michelle isn't the one asking for the money. There are others. We have put this crowdfunder together to ask for people to please donate to this protest, particularly if you can't get there yourself. This is something you can really do that will have huge value and help us to make that impact on your behalf. So, Michelle, if is any information you want to add about this, please?
No, it's just we're trying to we're really 17th of January, we're really at that last stage of fighting back against this bill. I'm hoping we see in the debate on the 1st that some MPs' minds have been changed. I know there's definitely some who have, because I've had feedback from local groups who've been and met with those MPs. I'm hoping they turn up and speak. But this will be the point when the report stage will be happening, when those last bits will be happening if we don't manage to get the government to change their mind. And so it's really important that they know people care. And the way you show that people care about this issue is by being loud, proud, and having boots on the ground.
Showing up.
And that's why we want the big stage. We want the professional PA systems, which we've done. We've done quite a few protests now, and we've done them small. But this time we need to go all out, because it's our last fight to literally show, look, this is not acceptable. We will not stand for this bill going through as it is. You are literally taking away parental rights, and you're taking away children's rights. So this is about children retaining their rights to data privacy, their rights to not be just a digital number, their rights to a private family life, but also about protecting parents' rights to be able to choose what is the right education for their child at the right time for their child. So we're going all out, all big, which means a lot of the things you can get away with that without doing some of the bits we can't get away with. We've also looked now at other protests that get big numbers, and there are some things they do which we've not been doing that we want to copy, because it does get the media interested. So it's me and Quiver are both working jointly on this. Quiver's been doing fantastic work in getting lots of YouTube streamers who are going to be there present to be getting up it from every angle to make sure that it will be seen. So we just need you to physically turn up to do that, or if you can't turn up, if you can assist in making sure that we can make it bigger, louder, prouder, and able to get people to really see what the issues are.
And this is not just about home education. This goes far beyond home education to children with SEND, parents with the school fines. It's much, much bigger. And, the thing is that this is a time to be bold. This is not a time to be the shrinking violet. This is the time to go and be bold and get out there. If your children can't cope with it, see if you can make arrangements so that you're able to go, or see it as an educational opportunity for your children to discover how to access politics for themselves, how to become activists themselves. We are seeing a lot of children actually rising up and becoming confident about activism, which is fantastic, and doing so much as well, which we will come to in a little bit. But please, we are just begging you, just get out there, advertise it, get as many people as you can, make it an outing for the whole family, for the cousins, for the dog, whatever. But get out there and take grandma too. Why not? Get out there and get some bodies protesting. So please, 17th of January in your calendars right now, please.
And having said that, I do know that there's a family coming with bringing 3 generations, because one of their family told me that at the Fight School Fines rally, that they will be bringing all 3 generations to the 17th of January one. They've booked their hotels already, apparently.
Well done, well done. And talking about generations, we want to talk about the Joy Baker book, which is now available. She home educated her children in the 50s and the 60s, not even knowing that home education was a thing. She had no community. She stood on her own, but she stood up against her local authority. And this book is now available after being out of print. It is back in print. If you want some inspiration on for your rights as parents, standing up for your children, Children in Chancery by Joy Baker. You can get it now on Amazon, and I really would encourage you to go and get a copy, read it to your children, read it for yourself to understand what's at stake. The story rings as true now as it did, 70 years ago? Very important piece of literature for every home educating family to have on their shelves. Get yourselves a copy now. Okay, that's my bit of promo done. So coming back to the generational thing and children who are finding their voice, we come to Broken Voices, which is a project that has come from an 11-year-old girl. And I'm going to ask Michelle once again, because Michelle has been so busy she's got her fingers everywhere in all the pies. So Michelle, tell us a little bit about Broken Voices.
Well, I was actually chatting to the said child yesterday at the Fight School Fines rally. She's a child who chose to become home educated after the school system failed her. She tried working with the school system, it failed her, and she made the decision to become home educated. And then she was inspired by Ben and Addison, who you may already know about their book, Hidden Voices Speaks. And she was inspired she's attended the Senedd rally, attended London rallies, attended a lot of the protests and heard other people speak, and spoke herself at the Senedd for us. And she's had a think about this, and then she's like, wanted to make a space where people could find their voice as well, a point where they could have their voices recognised. And so she's created Broken Voices. So you can get your entries in up until the 8th of December. It was on the original thing, it'll say 1 A4 sheet. They're now sort of much more flexible, because it's more important about capturing what the child wants to say. And that's whether it's in a written format, whether it's a picture format, poem, whatever format they want to do to go into the book, send it in, because this is about just capturing the raw voice and ensuring that no one's left unable to actually have their voice heard.
It's a little bit like Jen Hodges' Hidden Voice, where she did children's voice, and she was collecting stories as well. But this is to go in a book. So am I right, Michelle? There's a book, huh?
Yeah, it's going in the book.
Yes, it will be a book. And it would also be amazing for your children to see their own story out in print, that they can look back one day and be really proud of their contribution to it. So please, if you feel that this is something you want to participate in, you've got till the 8th of December. Don't leave it till the last minute if possible. Just get that in as soon as you can. Okay, and we come to some questions that have been asked in Parliament. The written questions have been asked around the Children's Wellbeing in Schools Bill. This one from Esther McVeigh, who's a Conservative MP for Tatton. She wanted to know what assessment her department made of the adequacy of the use of single identifiers for schools in the context of the Children's Wellbeing in Schools Bill. Georgia Gould, who's the Minister of State for Education, just gives the same old, basically that it's based on extensive user research, and nobody I know, including engagement with schools and education settings. Their 2023 report, Improving Multi-Agency Information Sharing, highlighted that while schools use identifiers such as the unique pupil number, these are not recognized. And for this purpose, they are testing the feasibility of the NHS number, and they've started a pilot to test the feasibility. I have a feeling that whether the pilot works or not, they're going to put it in anyway. It has no bearing. And future piloting will test this across wider safeguarding partners, including education. Michelle, you want to...
There's 2 points. Note the key thing missing here. At no point have they mentioned a data protection impact assessment, which the question was about the assessment they've made of the adequacy. But they've deliberately missed that bit out. We know that's because it isn't in a final format yet. In fact, we know from Freedom of Information requests, they weren't including the consistent identifier in their data protection impact assessment they've got in draft at the moment. So they haven't even considered it in their impact assessment. And they've conveniently managed to miss that out of the whole answer.
And God forbid they should ever run a pilot and look at the impact before they produce legislation, because, you know, who would have thought that would be a good idea?
Could you imagine any business running that way? Could you imagine going to the bank and sort of saying, "Hey, hey, we used to build my business.
Let me borrow.
We'll do that later. It's all right. We'll do it later."
Yeah, let me borrow £1 million, but I haven't done a business plan yet. Is that I'll let you have the business plan once you give me the £1 million. Is that all right?
They have so already decided that this is the solution to the problem, even though it's been very clear that it's not the solution to the problem. It is just blindly going in.
Absolutely.
To what problem? To what problem?
No, exactly. You know,
the other bit I wanted to highlight with this is specifically because in the bill there's a section about these multi-agency partnerships, which have been heavily criticised by some social care experts, because what it does, it actually means there's no accountability for anybody now, because now you have a new panel of lots of people who everyone's equally responsible. So ultimately that means no one's accountable. So it actually makes safeguarding less helpful, because you've removed that accountability bit, which you always need to make sure things work smoothly. But an interesting thing, earlier on, we challenged and got lots of people to challenge the government about this specific bit about schools, education becoming safeguarding partners. Now, they've consistently, in fact, they did put it in a few of the news at the time, that they're not, this bill doesn't make them a safeguarding partner. They're going to be working closely with them, but they're not going to be made an official safeguarding partner. Whereas Georgia here very clearly says future piloting will test this across wider safeguarding partners, including education, which means it can't be both. They adamantly said that it wasn't going as far, because that was a big criticism at the beginning. It's like, hang on, schools are not trained to be that. They are trained in spotting safeguarding, they are trained in doing referrals, but they're not trained to be the safeguarding partner. But this is quite clearly treating them as if they are. So which is it? The government doesn't seem to know.
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem that we have. And then you have some other questions there, don't you, Kat? Terry McCarthy to ask the Secretary of State for Education if she'll take steps to send information to home educating parents on the registration measures within the Children's Wellbeing in Schools Bill. And you said you liked this question in this answer, didn't you, Michelle? You want to give your insight on that, please?
Yeah, I like this question, because the whole assumption that, well, once we've got the bill through and then we've made we're intending to do the regulations and publish guidance, then we'll sort of consult on how we'll do a bit of a consultation then, and part of that will be how you will like us to tell you the information on the registration measures. Whereas really at this point, they should actually be communicating what they intend with the registration measures now, because they already know what their intentions are. But it doesn't make sense to put it in the consultation for us to say how we want to receive the information, because we also need to know about the consultation and things. So it's one of these non-answers that says a lot about the fact they don't really care about home educating parents. They don't care about our views, because haven't even been considered within how you communicate with the community to ensure they know what measures are required.
This running list of all the amendments tabled up to and including 19th of November. So something to go and have a look at. I don't know if any of you, Michelle or Alison, if you've had a chance to have a look, if there's anything that needs highlighting for our attention.
Ash has got a few interesting ones in there about not wanting children to have access to VPNs and things like that and stuff. CRISP has got some interesting ones about trying to add a court process into the home education element. And Barron's tried to bring back her child in need bits. I'm not too worried about Barron's one, because Baroness Smith has already done a Will Wright letter where she sort of said no. So because the government have said no, I'm less concerned about that amendment. I'm expecting more amendments to appear when the date of report stage is sort of released, because I know there are lots of peers working in the background trying to work out what amendments may have a chance of actually being passed, because report stage is a lot shorter than committee stage, and it's the time when they can actually get things potentially added before it goes back to ping pong to decide if the House of Commons will accept the changes. So I know they're thinking very carefully. It's another thing I'm hoping will come out of the debate, is I'm hoping that some of the conversations that MPs have will help to sort of cement ideas on how amendments should run, because after them we'll probably be asking people to contact peers to give indications of amendments that may be useful to this bill, depending on what happens in the debate.
Yeah, I think what's going to be good about the debate also is it'll maybe be giving some food for thought to some MPs for the ping pong stage.
Yeah,
maybe they'll do a little rethink on some of their whatever stance they've been holding.
absolutely.
Next up, we have another written question, which is to do with home educated children with special educational needs in the Poole constituency. Normally, what they've done what they normally do here, they've pointed to the latest statistics. Michelle, do you have any views on this, or Alison, any comments on this?
I just find the receiving special educational support number one of the most pointless statistics ever, because SEND support in itself isn't consistent across schools. And I was trying to work out, and helpfully found me the link of where they work on the SEND support, because you don't receive SEND support when your child isn't outside school. But all they've done is they've literally used the figures of children who were on the SEND support lists when they're at school and withdrawn. So it's not the real level of children who should be on SEND support, but it also isn't actually a figure that means anything, because one of the big criticisms of SEND support is you can even be in the same constituency, and school A will find a way to put lots of people on their SEND list so they can get the extra funding from the SEND support, whereas school B will see that as ordinary provision in their school because they're naturally more inclusive minded. And a child who would be in school A on SEND support wouldn't be on SEND support in school B.
And
so it's one of these
not just that. Sometimes they don't recognise that a child needs SEND support as well. So there's a massive sort of under recognition of that. And just to note on statistics, they don't collate statistics based on constituencies, and the reason for that is because they collate statistics based on local authorities, which are not necessarily the same as a constituency. So, for example, my local authority, which is Lancashire, probably has 20 or 30 constituencies within it, so they don't do it only because, the Department for Education within your local council covers the whole of your local council. So Mr. Duncan Jordan should have known better, because he should know that that's the case. So it's just an example of how to ask a question that can't be answered, and then how the government doesn't even attempt to answer the question in the slightest, which they're not doing with any of them.
He should have asked his local council really for those figures anyway.
But I think the other bit with constituency bits as well, there's always that risk that at constituency level you'd be going to those two smaller numbers, which would then be required to be suppressed anyway.
Yeah. There's a rule about when you can identify the people concerned because the numbers are so low. Yeah. You've got to be careful what you ask. And this is why we say to people, if you're going to do an FOI, or you're going to ask a question, or you're going to put in a petition, please consult with those of us who are very, very used to doing this before you do it. Because once it's done and you can't change it.
And the other interesting thing for me is well, not interesting, it's they will only look at what's recorded. So listen, you always talk about how, like with so many of these serious case reviews and so on, there's a lot recorded, but that doesn't mean something is being done or not being done. So
that's right. So we see this with good example of this, which is completely outside of education, is where health visitors weigh babies. They record, they observe, they plot on graphs the weight of the baby, but they don't do anything about the weight of the baby if the baby's weight is not increasing the way it should be doing. They just observe the statistic. And this is just a phenomenon that happens right across the board with education, health, and all sorts of things, the observation. And then government officials and council officials quite often mistake recording for intervention. Recording is not intervention, recording is not help. Action is help.
And that's where this question is actually kind of not really helpful, because it's not reflecting actually what the reality is of numbers of children and that kind of thing. It's just a recording. Okay, next then we have some news articles, I believe. We have one article which is
Teesside.
Yes.
Yeah, they've had a meeting.
Yeah.
Always
Yes,
dangerous to have a meeting. But the thing about this article in Stockton basically is they are recognizing that a lot of children are being taken out of school for mental health reasons. So, I hope they take the lesson from that and understand that something needs to be done. And they also say predominantly in secondary. And I think we are seeing that the numbers of children being taken out, seem to increase in the secondary years. So they basically had a meeting and they talk about what is being done and the numbers having risen. Not quite sure what they're going to do with that information, but there you have it. 470
and
children.
At least in Stockton, they are recording the absences of children as being through illness. A lot of local authorities are really, really trying to persuade schools not to do that. And it is skewing the statistics. So it's making it look like children are choosing not to go into school or parents are feckless, when in actual fact, these children are suffering sometimes at risk of their lives.
Well, it's interesting in the last sort of paragraph at the end of the article, one of the counsellors said, that as society, we talk a lot more about mental health. It's more widely spoken about and more accepted, and there's less stigma. So our families, our schools, everyone is recognizing that. Everyone's mindful of their mental health and well-being. So on the whole, actually, not a bad response, and not sort of parent blaming, at least, which makes a pleasant change. Do we have any more news stories to share? Okay, Schools Week. So dozens of councils do not hold data on how many home-educated children are subject to child protection inquiries.
Well, it's just a piece of nonsense, really. It really is. If they joined up the dots, they would know. We always know. It's putting children on lists. They're putting children on lists.
Yeah.
They're going to put them on even more lists. They're going to join the wrong dots together with the legislation instead of the right dots together. They already have all the procedures they need.
I also think with this article, the interesting thing is, we know from Education Otherwise previous research that they do keep the figures of the number of children referred, because we managed to work out the percentage that did convert to child protection. So magically, all of a sudden, when they do FOIs to try and find this, so they can basically repeat that sort of. A lot of LAs don't hold the amount of children home ed when they do Section 47 inquiries. Well, that's a concern in itself, because if they've done a proper inquiry, education is part of the holistic inquiry.
Yeah.
So they absolutely would. And this article, when they re-challenged one LA, the LA all of a sudden realised they did hold the information, having originally said, no, we don't. So it's one of these ones where you sort of can say it sort of doesn't pass the sniff test from the local authorities, because if they've done a Section 47 inquiry, then they've done an inquiry and it needs recording, because there's a whole protocol, a whole procedure they need to follow. And part of that procedure includes looking at the child holistically to make decisions. So the fact that they are saying they don't hold the information is just pure nonsense on the part of the LAs, because they either are not actually doing the inquiries when they went to. There's, we'll do an inquiry, and they're not bothering, which I can't think for 1 second is happening. Or they're just falsely saying they haven't got it.
Of course, this has come up because they're looking at the Sarah Sharif case and whether that data was available. The Children's Commissioner, Dame Rachel D'Souza, said the review into Sarah Sharif's death showed that all the information needed to save Sarah was available but never shared across services. But actually, we know that some of that information was shared from the school to social services. The local authority, the home education department knew about her. They knew that she'd been taken out to home educate. So the information was shared, but it was not used as it should have been to follow up and to make sure that all was well with her. And there's a lot of reasons why that happened. It's disingenuous to say that it would have made a difference.
Yeah.
I want to just quickly.
Where do we get the statistic that 219 home educated children have child protection plans?
They did FOIs themselves, so
Right,
that is
okay,
from
so-
their own FOIs.
So the point is, okay, so 219 home educated children out of the 111,700 have child protection plans, which is a rate of 1 in 510. The rate of child protection plans nationally is 1 in 250. So you are half as likely to end up on a child protection plan. However, the danger with that statistic is, of course, that the government will say, oh, no, it's not safer. It's just that we don't have eyes on your children, so we don't have enough home educators on child
If
protection
they knew
plans,
about more of us, maybe they'd put more on child protection
But
plans.
that's
Is
why
what
I'm
they're saying.
suspicious of the LAs all of a sudden not knowing how many children on the inquiries, because we would then be able to show against, school population against home ed of how many referrals and inquiries happen and the conversion rate to child protection, which would then be a more robust way of fighting back. So it's a bit convenient that at this point, when the journalist asks, magically they don't hold the information, but we know they've held it before because it's been used for research before.
Yeah. So the conversion rate would actually be a more accurate way of saying whether our children are more at risk or not, because
Absolutely.
The probability of a child reported going on to a child protection plan in both populations. Yeah, which is what the Education Otherwise research showed that a few years ago. So it might be worth revisiting that.
I just wanted to quickly also just go back to our very first, when we started talking about debates, just be aware of other debates that are coming up in the next few weeks that may be of interest to you and will be mentioned in our Substack. So we have the 8th of the 12th, do not introduce digital ID cards, is being debated. And on the 15th of December, repeal the Online Safety Act is being debated. So you may want to follow those as well. For those of you who are not aware, we have a Substack which goes out every Monday with loads of information. So it has what we discussed on a Sunday evening, but it has more things that may be of interest to you. And it's very easy to make sure you receive this in your inbox. Just go and subscribe to the Substack. The link will appear by magic in our comments because we have people with magic fingers who put these things in. And go and sign up. That way, if you miss the live and you're not on Facebook or you can't find it, the Substack will also have a link to our live video as well, and have everything that we feel might be of interest to you, and you can stay updated without having to come onto Facebook. And if also for people who don't want to be on Facebook all the time, this is just a way of making sure people miss a lot of things coming on the feed as well. So you can make sure that you receive that Substack with all the information every week to keep you up to date. And you can also make sure you are notified whenever we go live by putting in the comments, ! Notify, right? Yeah, got it right. Okay. So you can put that in the comments, and that means every time we go live on the action group or wherever you are, you should be notified. Anything else that we need to talk about? Anything else of importance? Michelle, you're going to be restarting the Zooms for some.
Yep, tomorrow.
She's going to be restarting it. It was basically a kind of a meeting that's open to anyone who's interested in sharing some ideas and thoughts on action. Am I right?
Yeah, local action. Yeah.
Yes. And so, Michelle, you're going to be sharing that. Where can people find the link for that meeting and the details of those meetings that you're going to have?
When I post it under the post where I forgot to put the link, then they'll be able to find it.
Are you planning the first one for this Monday?
Yes, it's 8 o'clock. This 8 o'clock on Monday.
Tomorrow. So if you've got some thoughts and ideas on participating, supporting, coming up with new, fresh ideas for action, please, you need to find. Hopefully we can put that link somewhere where you can find it as well. And you can, I think do they need to sign up for it to get the link?
It has a registered bit, but they can literally do that at the time. So if you're like just arrive at the time, you can literally register at the time, unless I've gone over my amount. But we're normally far away from the maximum I can go. So I'm not expecting to go over that.
Yeah. So Michelle that will be available for you to go and sign up for that as well. We did find it very helpful previously, so go for that.
And I did a podcast that was published today with Move the Dirt. So if you've got friends and family who don't understand what home education is or don't understand, it's a very general thing. It's a very general discussion about education and home education and things like that. But it's quite a nice, gentle introduction if you've got people that don't understand what home education is all about and why we have problems, etc., etc. It's something to go and look at.
Okay. Do we have any comments we need that we need to discuss at all? I'm just looking to see if there's anything interesting in the comments. Yes, Chris took part in DFE research call earlier this week and was able to share a lot of concerns and seems to have piqued the interest of the interviewer. So that's really good. We have to do this everywhere. We have to, use every opportunity to change minds about home education. So anyway, thank you very much if you've joined us this evening, and thank you to the team for being with me on the live this evening. Have a good week.